everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be looking at how to sketch a quadratic function, one of the most important sketches to master in mathematics, really at every higher level of mathematics. So, in order to sketch a quadratic function, there's many different ideas. I like to break things up into 3 simple steps, especially if we are pre-calculus. So my first step we're going to do is we're going to simply find the y-intercept. That occurs always when x is equal to 0. So I'm going to let x equal 0. I simply get y equals 0 squared minus 0 minus 12. Well, 0 squared is 0, minus 0 is 0, minus 12 gives negative 12. And I've found the y-intercept. That's step 1. Step 2 is going to be to find my x-intercepts. This part's a little bit harder, but to find my x-intercepts, I'm simply going to let y equal 0. So if I let y equal 0, I get x squared minus x minus 12 all equal to 0. When equations equal 0, that triggers that we're solving. The way we solve a quadratic, there's already a video on the channel. The way we solve quadratics is to factorize and solve. So I'm going to start by factorizing. I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply to give negative 12, add to give minus 1. So if I think about those 2 numbers here, I have, what's that? I've got minus 4 and positive 3. So I get my 2 factors. My 2 factors are going to be x minus 4, x plus 3, all equal to 0 if I try to get my head out the way there. I get 2 x-intercepts. I get x is equal to positive 4 and minus 3. If you're unsure why, like I said, I made a video about how we solve quadratics already on the channel, so feel free to check that out. So, I've got my x-intercepts. There's a third step. The third step is how we find our vertex point or our turning point. It's got a few different names. So to find my turning point, I'm going to start by giving myself a little bit more room, because I just never give myself enough space and I write a little bit too large. I'm going to make that a bit smaller, and I'm going to do step 3. Step 3 is to find my turning points. Well, my turning points, I don't know why I'm using pink, but I'm using pink. My turning point, or t dot p, is given by the formula x equals minus b over 2a. Okay, so this gives me the x-coordinate of the turning point of my quadratic. It's a little bit like, it's actually the first bit of the quadratic formula, if you want to look at that to help you remember it. To do this, I wind up with, well, x is equal to minus b. Well, b is negative 1. My b term's here, right? That is minus 1x is this term here. So my b term is going to be negative 1. Well, minus 1 gives positive 1 over 2 multiplied by a. Again, my a term here is going to be 1. So it's going to become 2 multiplied by 1, which simply just gives x equals 1/2. Now, to find my y-intercept, I have to substitute 1/2 back into my quadratic equation. So if I do that, I wind up with y is equal to a half squared minus a half minus 12. Okay, so I have to do a little bit of fraction work here. So a half squared, that is going to give a quarter. That gives 1 over 4 minus a half minus 12. Well, a quarter minus a half, I'll explain this. A quarter minus a half, I make the denominators the same. People struggle to, add and subtract fractions at every single level. A half is the same as 2 out of 4. Make my denominator the same. 1 minus 2 gives negative 1. So I'm left with a negative quarter minus 12. And this will give negative 49 over 4. And I'm just going to leave that as an improper fraction. So my 3 steps to get all the information I need to sketch a quadratic is find the y-intercept, find the 2 x-intercepts, and find the coordinate point of the turning point, which I have done. It is 1/2 negative 49 over 4. So I now just want to sketch my graph. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to draw myself a lovely pair of axes. There we go. Thank you for finally straightening up. And I've got a few options, right? I'm a bit messy, so I actually don't like doing it this way. You can simply label where all of your turning points are. And I know my vertex point, my turning point of my quadratic, sorry, I should say key points, right? I can simply label where all my key points are. My turning point is going to be at 1/2 and minus 49 over 4. I know some people get a bit stressed out by fractions. We don't need to know exactly where that is. We just need to know it's a negative number, so it has to be on the negative side of the y-axis. That's all we really care about. Okay, so once I've got my little points put down, this is going to be minus 3, this is going to be positive 4, this is going to be minus 12. I can now attempt to draw my quadratic through all those lines. I always at least miss one, so sometimes it's actually easier to sketch the graph first, then add in the markings. But there we go. That is my fully completed sketch of a quadratic. For full marks, we should label our x and y intercept. We should also rewrite the equation. That is x squared minus x minus 12. And that is a fully completed sketch of a quadratic function. Those 3 steps work for literally every single quadratic ever made. Literally every quadratic ever made, those 3 steps will work. So whatever question you get in your exam or in class, this should help you sketch any quadratic. Hope you guys found this helpful, and I'll see you all in the next video.